All right, guys, so we have an important story here that's gonna fly under the radar. The mainstream media is not gonna talk about it. A lot of right-wing commentators aren't gonna talk about it because it's not a sexy story to talk about, but it's one of these provisions that is stuffed into these massive bills that nobody ever reads, that does have a important effect in regards to the Second Amendment. This is a important precedent that's being set here in regards to so-called red flag gun laws, right? Or red flag gun confiscation laws that, eventually will apply to the general population, right? That's how it works. You target a very specific population first and say, oh no, we're just doing these people. And then once you do that and everybody's okay with that, they're cool with that, then you say, oh, you know what? We need to now apply this to the rest of the population, okay? Because we've already done this before, right? If you give an inch, they will take a mile. And in this case, the specific population that they're applying these so-called red flag gun confiscation provision to is the military, right? The military is now being subject to red flag gun confiscation. Now, if you guys don't know what red flag gun laws are, it's basically the idea that a friend, or a family member or law enforcement can say that you're crazy, right? You're crazy and that you shouldn't have guns. So they can go to a judge and a judge can basically enter a order to have your guns confiscated because they think that you are crazy, right? So that's kind of how it works. The idea is to prevent somebody who may be mentally unstable from possessing firearms and potentially committing, harmful acts with those firearms. The only problem is that you don't go through due process, right? You're guilty before being proven innocent, okay? Which is wrong, right? It's just fundamentally wrong. And this little provision here has been snuck into the NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, that basically passes every single year, right? And politicians love doing this. They love sticking these little provisions in there that nobody's going to talk about in these massive bills, and using that as a precedent to further expand these laws into the future. And I'm gonna tell you up front, Republicans are just as guilty as Democrats in regards to letting this anti-Second Amendment provision get into this bill because they voted for it. So before I get into that, let's actually read a little bit more about this. A provision in the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act would allow military courts to issue protective orders that include red flag gun confiscation, according to the more than 1,300 page bill. 1,300 pages. Who's reading that? Nobody. In the legislation, those beholden to the United States Code of Military Justice could be issued a military court protective order by a military judge or magistrate, which would make processing, receiving, or otherwise accessing a firearm illegal. So I think those that are subject to the U.S. Code of Military Justice, which I think are those that are active in the military. Again, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe it applies to just those that are active, and it may apply to certain military retirees. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you can be court-martialed under that as a military retiree, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that. A military court protective order issued on an ex parte basis shall restrain a person from possessing, receiving, or otherwise accessing a firearm, and a military court protective order issued after the person to be subject to the order has received notice and opportunity to be heard on the order shall restrain such person from possessing, receiving, or otherwise accessing a firearm in accordance with Section 922 of Title 18, Section 529 of H.R. 4350 states. Additionally, military court protective orders issued on an emergency basis are exempt from providing the recipient with the standard right to due process. Instead, notice and opportunity to be heard must only be provided after an order was already issued. Yeah, so no due process, essentially, right? No due process. Guilty until proven innocent. If somebody says you're crazy and that you are probably a dangerous person with firearms, yeah, they can just, confiscate your guns if you're in the military, right? The House has passed that, okay? And 135 Republicans in the House have signed up for this. They've said that this is okay. right? They support this. Again, the so-called pro-Second Amendment Republicans, 135 of them in the House, said yes. Now, I'm going to include a link to this page, right, in the description section so you guys can see who voted for this, right, who put their name on this, and you guys can make your own decisions from there, right? If you want to call your representative and, you know, make your voice be heard about how you feel about this, whether you agree with it or not, hey, I'm just providing you with the information, okay? Just providing you with information. Just letting you know that Republicans went on board with this. And also, the Republicans signed up to allow women to be drafted in the military as well. That also is a part of the new NDAA, okay? Women being drafted. Now, here's the thing. I've talked about women being drafted a couple times and how I feel about it. I don't think that it should be allowed. I don't think women should be forced into the military via draft. Not that I think there's any chance of us actually having a draft at any point in the future, to be quite honest with you. But at the same time, I'm just against it in principle, right? I'm against it in principle. I think if anything, if you're going to change it, you should just get rid of it, right? I think if that's something that you're going to do, get rid of it. I understand, you know, kind of making the Democrats kind of, you know, eat their own words in the sense that, like, oh, all they do is they want to talk about like women's equality and how women are equal to men and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And listen, here's the thing. As somebody that actually does believe in gender roles, it's good to go after the Democrats' hypocrisy on this if they happen to vote no or don't support women being drafted into the military after basically saying that women are equal to men and that a woman can do everything a man should do and all this. I get that. But it's not good to sign up for something like this that actually is going to make women, you know, be drafted into the military, right? I don't think that's necessarily a good look, okay? You can call out hypocrisy without signing up for the woke nonsense, right? You just become a part of the problem. So, yeah, essentially the point of this video, guys, is to let you know that, you know, the Republican Party is essentially useless on a lot of core issues, right? And I hope you guys are kind of taking notice of this, right? Hope you're taking notice. This is something small that nobody's going to talk about, nobody's going to say anything about, but when push comes to shove, right, Republicans say yay, right? Now, it still has to pass the Senate, right? The Senate still has to sign off on it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be stripped out in the Senate. We don't know yet. But we do know 135 RINOS signed up for gun confiscation for military members without due process, which could set the precedent for it to apply to the rest of the population at some point in the future, right? Which is what the Democrats ultimately want to do. And they sign up for women to be drafted into the military. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.